Hello, everybody, and welcome to Adobe Live. My name is Flynn, and I'm here with Dale Bigeni. How are you, Dale?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Flynn. Thank you. How's yourself?
Yeah, really good, thanks. We had a great live stream this morning with Bill Hope. Hope you guys joined that and stuck around if you can. I know for some it was like 1 o'clock in the morning or something, so understand if they didn't make it up. But I'm sure some of you troopers are still here, which is awesome. Obviously, we're in Sydney, so it's Wednesday. So Wednesday at 11 o'clock. Doing a couple of midday streams this week, so it's a slightly different time slot. But hanging out with some of our favorite people like Dale here, and actually, Bill Noah saying, "Am I pronouncing your surname correctly, Bigeni?"
Correct. Yes.
It is correct. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Look, it's not the easiest, but that was a well said one.
done enough streams and hung out with you long enough. I should be able to pronounce your name correctly. But he haven't. You know, when someone has you second guessing, he was like, "Is that how you pronounce it?" Because I've only ever seen it written. And I was like, "Yeah, I think so." And I'm like, "I'm gonna ask him for sure."
I would be offended by now if you couldn't say it, Flynn.
I know, but you might have also you're so polite that you might have just like let me slide.
Yeah, true.
D, you are here. That's awesome. It's you who I was thinking about. 2 a.m. now. Such a trooper. That's awesome. Wow. Festus in the house as well. Motorcycles, nice. Yes, we're going to get to the motorbikes in just a second. Skulls. Nano is asking, will there be skulls? There might be skulls. Dale definitely is partial to a skull or two. So yeah, great to see you all here hanging out with us. But yeah, without further ado, how about I get some music happening? Is that music happening? You guys can hear that, right? There we go, a little bit. And then Dale, maybe we can jump through. I mean, we're going to be talking about motorbikes. I kind of already gave it all away, which is very exciting. But yeah, over to you. What are you up to?
All right, I'm just going to share a little bit of just a quick little overview, I guess, snapshot of what kind of I do and kind of where I've been. So I feel like I'm a bit of and we just had this quick chat about being tired and very, very overworked. I feel like my real title is just hired goon. I'll just do whatever you want, basically. At any time of the night, any time of the day, it doesn't matter. I'm here to serve. So I'm up by Dale. I draw a lot of skulls. I draw a lot of bikes. I draw a lot of cars. I paint walls. I do a whole bunch of things. But I just want to explain to you kind of where all that comes from. So I love skateboarding. I love punk music. I love tattooing, and I love cars. Specifically, I like old hot rods and I guess things that are noisy and, you know, probably not too good for the environment, but they're cool to look at and just aesthetically pleasing. So my style is based around these 4 genres, I guess, like in a nutshell. And progressively through the years, I started drawing skulls and lots of skulls, but it always had that like real ode to, I guess, tattooing and composition that tattooers would use and things like that. And then I started developing styles over time and incorporating like, I guess, bike references or like motorsport reference. And I guess it got a lot of traction and people enjoyed seeing that side of it because bike culture and custom culture in general it's quite a big audience. So to mix the two together seemed pretty, it was a sure thing. So people started liking that. Then I started thinking, well, how can I personalize this to make it like a more of an experience for each individual person? So I started doing custom artwork for clients where I would incorporate the things I knew about skulls and that composition side of things. And then also just like incorporating the bikes in general, like just to draw more bikes and enjoy drawing bikes and having those details to look forward to. Basically it led into things like this, where clients would come to me and, sorry, this is a mix of client and personal anyway, but you know, I'd compose things using that same tattoo aesthetic, I guess. Like everything I do, I always picture it to be how it would sit on an arm or like as a tattoo piece. And then I started, just incorporating those, like the things I love, but adding like a little bit of my own style to it. So you can see all three, they kind of carry the same art by Dale, bold shading and things like that. But it's just nice to throw the cars in and have like some details of the blacks and things like that, because it makes it a lot more personal to people.
Is that like, is the idea that like, I've just noticed that like in these three examples, like nothing bleeds off the page. Is that like come back to that idea of like the tattoo, like it lives like by itself?
Yeah, most of the time I like to keep it centralized in the piece. I just think also on the wall it looks like it's, I don't know, it's just my personal preference, but I like the way it sits with a bit more, I guess, breathing space around it. And it is a lot to do with that composition again. Like in tattooing, like you're always allowed to add to the sides or bottom or top. So, I mean, I'm not a tattooist, but I've got a fair few that I plan knowing that there's going to be another one after that. So these could, like, I could continue these pieces forever. It's kind of like you could jump back into it in a couple of months and just keep going. But yeah, so they're kind of where it's at. But these, I kind of mix up the different like techniques and styles and layouts and things like that, just because I think it's cool to be diverse. I don't think you need to stick to one particular style. I mean, I like blacks. I just want to draw blacks, or I want to draw cars. It doesn't matter how I draw them or what I do with them. I just want them in the piece. So yeah, progressively over time, it's just become more and more a thing that people want to see now, and it's crazy like how much it's picked up and people have appreciated it. Like, I mean, there's a lot of guys drawing cars and they're like, everyone does it in their own style, but I'm trying to develop my own thing. But I really like playing in that negative space and, you know, a lot of shadows and things like that. So I keep it quite dark still. And that goes back to where I used to reference pictures like this all the time, and I just liked how, excuse the low res Google finds, but I used to really enjoy just looking at like highlights and things like that. Like, it was never about the whole car. It was like the parts of the car or the bike that really stood out. Like, you know, the grill on this first, the front end here, like you don't even need to see it in full, but you know that there's those really cool lines in it and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess I've adapted that into the way I draw it. I keep it quite, I'd say, medium level detail. I wouldn't go all the way into like high level. I have done really high level ones. They take forever, but you know, each kind of style I choose is reflective to the client's needs, I guess. And yeah, so that's kind of where the inspiration comes for when I'm doing my pieces, and the kind of the story of how it got to be where it is now, and the fact that people are happy for me to draw these as a full-time thing. It's great. Like, I love drawing them. So
it's awesome.
Yeah.
We just had a question from chat, if you're up for it.
Yeah, sure.
What other differences are there from illustration/tattoo illustration that you've picked up on?
Differences?
Yeah, difference between like doing an illustration and tattoo illustration, or I guess similarities as well. Like, what have you learned from doing both?
I guess there's not a lot different. I think the biggest difference is our chosen finish of like our medium. Like, where I do it all digital, they put it on skin. But I guess the biggest difference would be that I'm composing these artworks basically in a negative format. So I do a lot on dark backgrounds and stuff like that, and I guess I'm only looking at those highlights, where to do that on the skin, it's a lot more of a task. So I guess I'm getting the easy way out. But they're very similar. We're both just creating, and we're creating artworks based on clients' needs. So there's not a real big difference. I think that really it's just that one uses a needle and I use this little pen. That's all I can say, really. And
you can erase things back. You can.
I got Command Z.
Command Z. Yeah.
Yeah. No one gets hurt. No one comes back and tells me I put something wrong for life. But yeah, but I definitely I have a lot of respect for the tattoo world, and I think it earlier showed that, you know, I guess we could take from each other's world, because now there's a lot of tattooists using digital formats to create their artworks and stuff, where before it was a lot more traditional. So it's nice to see that the two worlds cross over, kind of. But yeah, it's just all creating. As long as we're drawing, everyone's a winner, I reckon.
That's it.
All right, but so I'm just gonna kind of talk about, like, I guess how I go about these artworks, and kind of like this image has just been a Google find. I tried to track down the photographer, couldn't find it. But anyway, this is just for an example. I like to do these tearaways as well. I because I do have such I guess a love and respect of the bike. I like to see some of the photos still sometimes, just because there's parts of the bike that are really truly like works of art on their own. So it's nice to kind of like, this style is just one of many styles I like to just dabble in, I guess. But it's kind of like you can do this same kind of technique with any photo, really. So I've got like my little separations here of where I want to create and where I don't want to create.
So what have you, can you just mention, like, what have you created? Are they just solid bit of color that you've used with the pen tool or something, or?
Yeah. So I just like roughly draw these shapes in, like literally just rough it in so that it looks a bit kind of torn or like, separated. And then I just create these little masks just so I can change the colors quite easily. Like, it's going to be black anyway, but I just put a color so I can see some difference. And yeah, so I do that just to give myself some working planes. But I usually incorporate like typography, and I might put like some like smoke or stars or skeletons. So I'll create like my own part of the artwork to make this original photo a little bit more interesting, even though it's a really nice photo. But yeah, so I've got my little I guess my colored off sections, but I'm going to turn this black because the reds are just annoying me. I don't really want it red. So what I do, I basically, like I said, I do a lot of my artworks on darker backgrounds, and I think part of it's a little bit that it's a quicker workflow to just work on the highlights than it is to draw the whole thing, outline it, shading, stuff like that. So I'll just go through and show you what I mean.
Yeah, cool. And while you're doing that as well, hey, if you guys are watching on YouTube, jump over to behance.net/live if you want to join the chat. Let us know where you're from. I know Festus is from Wellington, and he was talking about one of your favorite breweries in Welly is called Panhead. I've had Panhead beer before. It's really good. And they do a lot of like motorbikes and fast, crazy cars and lots of wild art for their stuff. Yeah. It's definitely like a cool kind of, it makes sense, Panhead, right? It's definitely like a cool like aesthetic, like almost that like cross between like kind of tattoo and cafe racer, kind of that machine, that like hardcore like machine kind of stuff. Can we get the beer here? Yeah. I've had it on tap somewhere.
Oh really?
I think so, yeah, if I'm remembering correctly. And Sachin, from India, it's great to have you here. Jump in and chat, let us know what's going on. Say hello, ask questions, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I wouldn't know where to start with something as complicated as this. So you're starting with the highlights. It's probably the last thing that I would have expected.
Well, this is it. So I guess, like I said, this is, I don't know how people would see this, but I guess because I'm using the negative space and the kind of like only going to use the highlights on this black, it's not the hardest thing to do. It's just like picking up, like, I guess you got to, for one, I think you can't just trace the photo. I think you need to understand what's happening on the bike as well. It can't just be, you go in and start drawing and hoping that it looks good. Like, if you don't know what a part of the bike is, then it's going to come out awkward. And guys in that scene will pick up on it. So I try to make sure I can get some of the details in so that it's, especially when it's a customer's bike, like I want it to feel like they're looking at their bike, not just a bunch of white lines. So yeah, I'm literally picking up some of these highlights and just kind of picking ones that are gonna let me see the form of the bike or the cables or, you know, the fork here.
And you're just on a new layer, like just basically drawing, painting using the paintbrush.
Yeah, so I'm just painting. Yeah, this is just the standard hard round pressure brush that seems to make it into nearly every stream I do.
Old reliables.
Yeah,
reliable for a reason.
So yeah, I just go through, and I'm gonna try to have this kind of. I only cut out a little bit because I want to try to finish it to see what the final piece looks like, and you can already see like it makes no sense. Like if you turn that off, I don't know. Like
someone's had some fun with a highlighter, with a whiteout.
Yeah, so it's not really making much sense anyway. But I guess that's why I like it. You shouldn't have to You shouldn't have to draw every single thing to make it clear what you're drawing.
Right.
So I'm just gonna use my creative license here to just pick the parts that I think work.
Question from chat: do you have a motorbike?
I do have a motorbike. I have a Harley. It's I only just, funnily enough, only just got my full license, so I'm riding around on Harley's Lamb's approved learner bike, basically.
Nice.
And it's too cold at the moment to ride anyway, but yeah, I do have one.
That's awesome. I used to have a motorbike, but I do not have one anymore. At a CT110. Do you know what that is?
Is that a dirt bike?
It's a postie.
Oh, postie.
I loved that bike.
You know what? They got good bones on them. I've seen a few of them, like, even when I went for my license, there was a lady and she had one with like the big white walls on it, had like a heap of new chrome, and I was like, good on you. That's actually really cool. It's original, right? Like,
just having
originality.
Fun, yeah, there's like a whole community of like people who do them up and fix them up. Like there would be, I don't think it's as big as like the cafe racer community or anything, but there's definitely people out there like creating like custom accessories for it and all sorts of stuff. So I didn't go down that route. It was just A to B, but man, I had fun riding that thing. I
mean, I don't always work on Harley bikes. I'm going to show you this. Here's a preview of a bike. I work on a guy with, he's riding a Vespa. Like, it's nowhere near as interesting as the Harley setup, but it was still cool, and the client still wanted a skeleton on a Vespa. That's
so funny you should say that, because there was a question from Max in chat saying, do you ever incorporate Vespas into your artwork? I don't understand the rest of this though. Or do you steer away from that kind of work because of the criminal activity associated with people who ride Vespas? I'm assuming you're joking. I've never heard that before. I'm assuming
I definitely don't think there's criminal activity. It's a criminal comment to say that. They're good people, Vespa riders. Look, I prefer to do the Harleys and kind of like that style, only because, you know, it's close to my heart. There's one in the garage. I may as well, appreciate the things I've got.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I guess over time, that's just like people see more and more of, I guess, me drawing that, so that's what they think I prefer to draw, I guess. Like, it's a weird one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just like spend a little bit of time, not too much, but just trying to get, like I said, some of the details that really matter.
Super cool. And we're going to do a Q&A break in about 27 minutes. But you guys can ask questions as we go. But we usually just try to capture like a couple of questions so we can take an ergonomic break. So we're not asking people to be like drawing for like 90 minutes or 2 hours straight. It's good to have a little break. And also if we have like more meaning of life questions, or if you've got questions about freelancing or a career. A lot of people probably that watch the stream everyone would know you as an illustrator, but we were just chatting before that like you do a lot of graphic design as well.
Yeah. So that's my at the moment I just told Flynn that I'm not getting much sleep because I've just racked up a lot of graphic design work, which is it's not that I don't want to do that stuff. It's just been a long time since I had to spend some time doing graphic design. But yeah, definitely like to spread myself out.
Sachin was asking, it's a great question. Even like in the lead up to this, we were chatting about, I was asking Dale, I'm like, so you're going to use Illustrator or Photoshop? So it's interesting that this question came up. So Sachin was asking, is it possible to vectorize an image first by auto tracing and then get the same into Photoshop? Does it speed up the process of drawing, specifically for people who don't have patience to draw fine lines?
I would say no. That's just my personal. I think the live trace will take away too much of I guess the important detail. I guess unless it's a really high res image or it's an image worth trying that, I'd steer away from it. I guess, but that's only because I just prefer doing it this way. The fine line stuff, I guess, like it's only as fine as you want it to be, I guess. Like you decide how detailed you make this at the end of the day. So I think the Illustrator thing, I would use it for, there was a few of those pieces in my little presentation just then that were all Illustrator, but I tend to stick to Photoshop if I'm going to add stuff like the grit and kind of, a bit more of a natural feel. But you can definitely use whatever you wish.
I think we've done some live streams on vector art as well. If you want to check some of those out, like literally with Dale. So it really it's your tool of choice, and I guess it's also like kind of what output you want. And I mean, time is a factor as well. Like I'm just thinking about the comment about specifically for people who don't have the patience to draw fine lines. There's another illustrator that's on tomorrow with us, Bianca Beers, and she draws super, super fast and like quite sketchy. And at first it kind of looks like it's all a bit haphazard, but within half an hour, like you've got this, like there's a lot of detail that you can see in the image. So it really depends on kind of your style and what you want to do. And like Dale's being very exact here because in this specific case, we're using a reference, right? So you've already got the reference there. It's not like a sketch that you're going over with fine lines. Like you're literally trying to represent the highlights as accurately as possible. Yeah,
and like I said, it depends on your project, like you just said. If you're working towards, if this was a client's bike, I can't just go in there and do anything I want. I kind of need to make it reflective of what he sees every day, or he or she. I don't want to, just add a new exhaust because I don't like that one, or, But like you said, it's kind of, there's so many ways you can do this, I guess.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
love to get the streams of vector art. Thank you. Yeah, we can find that for you. I'm sure Johanna, she's looking for it already. Can have a look through. It's easiest to kind of look on YouTube. So we have a different YouTube channel to like the global Adobe. So we have Adobe APAC, Asia Pacific channel, and so all of our streams end up there. It's pretty easy to find. Pretty easy to go So we'll share a link in chat. You can check that out.
definitely in there. I do recall doing a couple of Illustrator stuff.
And yeah, Johanna's saying, don't forget you can also draw a vector in Fresco. That's true.
Correct.
Lots of ways to make art.
I've not dabbled in the Fresco yet, but it looks super interesting.
Yeah, there's been some interesting updates to like Apple and the chipsets and everything. So, one day it looks like we'll be able to use like iPad and iPhone apps much more easily on Macs, which will be pretty interesting.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah. Coming soon to a Mac near you.
Yeah, I'm just like, let's have a look. Let's see what is it like. But definitely now I can make out that top parts. Obviously, yep. Handlebars straight away. Obviously, the more you draw it, the more clearer the picture gets. So it doesn't matter how sketchy it looks. I still know that's the engine here. Like everyone knows how a bike looks. So as long as you get the main highlights, I guess, then I think you can pick and choose the smaller stuff. Like this guy's obviously, he's got this drilled out bar here, so I want to get these circles in here. And I might add a little bit more highlight if something's not as clear as I need it to be. This is probably the quickest way I would do it. Like it's not the only way, but yeah, if you go on my website, you can see there's a bike that was done full vector, and it's like a lot more detailed, and it shares the same kind of concept to, where I get the details and stuff from.
What's the weirdest request? Because I know you get a lot of requests through Instagram and other places of people to illustrate stuff. Have you ever had crazy request that is G-rated enough that you could tell us about it?
No, I wish I did have a lot more crazy requests. I think people have a lot of faith in, I guess, what we do, and they know what they want, and they just want you to kind of do it. So it's always kind of straightforward. They're like, "Oh, we just love your stuff. We just want a shirt or whatever it is they want." It's never. There's not much else to it. So it's kind of not boring. I'm quite happy to work like that, but yeah, there's a lot of faith, and the requests are very short. It's kind of like, "Oh, we just love your stuff, and we want, I don't know, an angry bear or something."
Right.
And it's cool because I don't have to do a lot of thinking. I think if I had a lot more crazy requests, I'd probably lose a lot of my hair.
The opposite to graphic design, right? They come to you, as you were saying before, then they're like, "Cool, we like your work. Can you do something like this?" You're like, "Yeah, cool. How about this?" And they're like, "Yep, great." And then you do it. Whereas with design, it's a lot of chefs, huh?
Yeah, and it's crazy because they're both the same, right? You could still ask me and be more specific with the illustration, but people kind of, I guess, if they can't draw, they don't want to tell you what to draw.
Right.
Where everyone secretly is a designer or an interior decorator or a chef. Everyone's got their own method to how or what things should look like or how you should do things. And graphic design is notorious for that.
It's true.
But I have respect for it because that's where it all started, and nice to know that I can still pick up a few of those jobs here and there.
Festus is asking, Dale, not asking, he's just saying, Dale, you have such a steady hand for those curves and angles.
Oh man, I was just looking at that while I was doing it, thinking that's terrible. I like. I'm glad he can see it that it's clear, because I was like, oh, this is really.
I'm sure you're your worst own critic, though.
Oh, I definitely am. Yeah, it's kind of like, how much detail do you want to put in it? It's. I kind of like that really subtle highlights and stuff like that, especially with something like this. Yeah, I'm just like, there's obviously no highlight here, but I want it to look like a light.
Sachin asking, which app on iPad is very close to Photoshop on desktop? Currently using Procreate and Affinity Photo on iPad. Well, you can actually get Photoshop on the iPad at the moment. I guess it depends on what you want to do. Like if you're wanting to illustrate, try Fresco. So Fresco, I think. Wait, am I spelling things right? Yes, Fresco. I always struggle with Fresco because the code name was Gemini, and it was called Gemini for so long, and then when it like kind of officially launched, it changed it to Fresco, and I always struggle to remember it. So yeah, give that a go. Like if that's what your illustration, I'd probably recommend checking that out. Hey Carlos, good to see you. What is up? And for new people joining us since we began, we're here with Dale Bigeni. We're in Photoshop, and Dale's you're using a Wacom.
Yeah, Cintiq Pro.
Cintiq Pro, illustrating a motorbike. We're going to have Q&A in like 15 minutes. If you're watching on YouTube or anywhere else, jump over to behance.net/live or be.net/live and come say hi. And if you like asking questions, you can ask a question or you can just say hello. You can say a lot of things.
Tell me what bike you ride. If there's any riders.
You're as cool as me. Did you used to ride a postie bike?
No one is that cool.
I used to ride that bike to and from work when I lived in Miranda. You know where that, like in the Southern Shire? Yeah. To the rocks through peak hour traffic.
Yeah. At least it's a nimble little thing. Like you can throw it around a little bit. Cars.
They just keep going. I guess the good thing, like I said that to some people who rode bikes, and they were like, actually, it's probably fine because if its top speed's like 60 kilometers an hour, but peak hour traffic's like 40, so you're just kind of putting along.
Who needs all that power, right? Like it's wasted energy.
That's right. Vikram's asking anything on Android close to Procreate. I actually don't know. I don't use Android, so I'm not sure. Maybe chat can help you out.
I'll put this tail line in. So I know exactly. It was getting a little bit tricky to see where the end of my illustration is supposed to start.
So this is, for those that joined us, this is that tear that you're putting through, right?
Correct, yes. I'm like, with the same brush that I always used, I'm just adding in like this uneven white line to reflect a tear of sorts. I might just do all of them while I'm there. Excuse me. Put this all the way up here. So I'm just literally, I've got the mask and I've selected and inversed it, and I'm just not even taking my time here.
So intentionally like keeping it rough because it's kind of like a torn page.
Yeah, but I also like, I mix between, if the artwork's going to be really like gritty, I'll use a brush for this tear that's a little bit more, I guess, rough on the edges. But for this, like, it's kind of pretty clean lines in there at the moment. And then I'm just going to do the last one up here. And make sure they're all on their own layers. Yeah, just try. I think straight away, like, if you can add something to the photo to make it very a bit more of your own, it's a nicer way to treat the artwork as well. But like I said, I like this model of bike specifically, and I really like the front end on it. So I didn't want to take over the whole artwork with my illustration, because there's a lot to kind of admire about the bike. I'm just gonna, now I've got that kind of done, the line work's kind of in there. Now I can just double check. Let's give it some names. It's quite rough at the moment. That's cool.
And are you just using like just a round brush, like for the white, for the highlights?
Yeah. And it's just like all pressure sensitive, so it's doing all that hard work for me. Who works that zoomed out? Gonna add some of my own. Obviously, it's not the same shine that's on the exhaust, but you can do whatever you want. It's your life. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
That's right. There's a question here that definitely doesn't have like a yes or no answer, but I think it'd be cool to talk about. Maybe we can just have a chat about it together. Will there be an increase in freelancing post the COVID phase, as most of the corporates
100%.
and design houses have adopted to working from home themselves?
I think so. I can already feel there's like this influx of work kind of out there at the moment for freelancers. I mean, I definitely don't think there's a shortage of work for everybody, but I think it'll definitely pick up, and I hope it does.
Yeah.
It's been a really, I know everyone says it's been a weird couple of months, but it definitely has been. From a business perspective and a life perspective, you just can't pick it at the moment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very strange year indeed. Hope everyone's doing okay out there. It's almost like, February and March we were sort of saying that sort of stuff. Hope everyone's all right, and it's still going on, right?
Still rolling.
It's still rolling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd be interested to hear what chat thinks about that as well. I think freelancing is like being your own boss and being adaptable. Like I've got some, friends that were full time that have unfortunately lost their job or been cut down to a certain amount of hours, and they're not in a position to take on work. Like they've never freelanced before. Maybe they don't necessarily have a skill that, or are in an industry that lends itself very well to freelancing or picking up gigs here or there or anything. Whereas I think people in the creative industry are uniquely good at adapting to situations. And if you're freelancing already, you can kind of adapt a lot easier. So I think there's a lot to be said about kind of setting up and being really flexible now and into the future as a bit of a, nothing's future proof, but like trying to set yourself up in a better position.
And I think it's funny because as a designer, I guess, and working in design studios and stuff, it was always kind of like the dream was like, why do I have to be here? I can definitely do this job at home. Just brief me, and this is like being proof that it worked. Like these studios don't need to be occupied all the time, right? Like,
yeah,
there's ways of doing business, and being flexible for people. And I hope that's what comes out of this, like a little bit more flexibility from, I guess, businesses as a whole.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully.
Only time. So.
I think some friends and family, and they're definitely in a working situation where they just cannot wait to get their workers back into the building, though, unfortunately.
Crazy, hey?
Yeah, it's really crazy. It's the opposite of what we experience with businesses rethinking and thinking, well, what if this is the new normal? How can we adapt to it? But I think there's a lot of resistance. Some of those maybe less creative, less flexible businesses that they're just like, well, I hope this finishes soon. But it might be the new normal for quite a long time. So.
No, I know, right? It's definitely going to take a while. All right. I've got like a bunch of these lines in that I'm pretty happy with. If I turn this up, you can see there's a little bit of shines and some like little reflection details, and it's definitely reflecting the black, but it is still very outlined, I guess. Like you can definitely tell it's been illustrated. That's the main goal there. But you can see I haven't used a lot of details. Literally a few little specks of white can make you see that there's details behind here. Things like that, like these little tiny dots. I don't even have to draw the circle, but you know that there's these cutouts, obviously, in the frame. But then so I've got this, the True Grit Texture Supply, the grain shader brush set here, it's great. It's got these pressure shaders of all different sorts. I'm just going to grab this number 6 and I'll show you. Try to pull the shader. And then you can see, so if I press hard, it's a full grain, and then it tapers off into none. I mean, that was a horrible demonstration, but you can see it's quite good how it tapers. So I'll use this to add a little bit of that grit, but you can go in and play with these settings and the brushes in texture. So I just turn it down a little bit. Now it's a bit tighter. So I'll do that.
Is that something you'll do, like, just as you're you just testing it a little bit and just trying to get it right at the very beginning, those brush sensitivities, and then you kind of stick to it?
Yeah, and then I just I stick to that one kind of setting throughout to try to make it consistent. But it's hard because, and lately I've noticed, so I might think that, I'm going to grain shade this stuff and it's going to look cool, and then I decide I don't want to do it, so it's almost like I waste my time sometimes. I'm so indecisive, but for this one, I'm going to use it because it's just a really nice way to, I guess, especially because the black's completely black, it's a nice way to give it the shape that I want. And you can see instantly, it looks it actually looks like it's got that light reflection. It kind of makes the paint look like it's got a bit of flake in it or something. But I don't use too much of it. I don't want to go overboard. So I'll put it on another layer as well. Because then I can tidy it up as I go.
I think Johanna shared the True Grit Supply link down there. I was just having a quick look just to see if Andrew Faircloud has actually been on Adobe Live before, because he's the one behind True Grit.
Yeah, good guy.
Australian in LA, and if he hasn't, we should have him on. That would be fun.
I definitely agree. I'd like to pick his brain, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
He might not want to tell us anything.
He might not. That's true.
It's his baby.
Yeah. Oh man, time flies. We've got about 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes or so until we've got Q&A. So if you do have questions, now's a good time. I think there's one or two in there that I may have missed from before. So we'll get into asking some of those questions. But now's a great time if you do have any questions to dump them in.
Do this seat. I won't go over all the brushes that I've got of his, but I'm just going to do the seat in this little pointillism brush. Just because I like the dots.
I love the dots. It's so good. It adds so much to an illustration.
Oh, dude, it's just like it's not. There's not a lot to it either. Like, and instantly, it just, I don't know, adds some charm to it.
Mm.
It's got a bit of texture.
Brandon saying a Dale and Andy collab sesh. Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, there's so many illustrators who kind of jump on the streams, and I see them using the True Grit textures. I think there'd be a lot of people who would love to kind of muck around and create some art and hang out with Andrew. I don't know him very well. I've only met him once or twice. Lovely guy.
I have actually never met him except for talking through the old socials, and he's just got so much time to give people, and it's nice to know there's guys out there that really care about the community.
Yeah, totally.
He's not in it to just be the best. He's kind of just a nice guy. So.
I can answer this question, Sashin. So how do I use the Behance platform effectively, specifically as a learner, professional, and educator? So that's an interesting question. I would say as a learner, there's so much live content now to check out. So you can pretty much learn any topic, any skill you want. There's so much coming out from the US team, from us, from also the Europe team as well. Good way to like learn and be introduced to new artists and processes and the way they do things. So it's just almost an infinite amount. Like I don't think anybody, maybe Festus, but I don't think anybody's actually watched it all because there's just so much available there. So as a learner, that's it. As a professional, you can create a portfolio. So show off what you've learned. You can upload your work, and you can follow other people and discover other people's work. As an educator, yeah, it is, and uploading your work and everything is always a great way to stay connected to other people in the community around the world. As an educator, I mean, you could, if you really wanted to, you could show off what you're learning from like user live streaming. So that's out in beta. I think it's invite only, but you can request to stream yourself. And there's been quite a lot of people user streaming. A lot of people user streaming this week. It's been awesome to see. So there you go. Man. Long answer to your short question.
By far the best platform, I think, for getting your work actually seen by the right people. Instagram's great, but the people looking on Instagram are just guys that are only looking really, like I find a lot of my clients lately are finding me through Behance, which is nice.
It's cool. We are at Q&A. We can keep going. We can take Q&A whenever we want, but if you wanted to,
let's do that. I'm just gonna go click this.
Cool.
Yeah, cool.
Have you saved? It always gives
no.
It always gives chat anxiety.
I have saved now.
There we go. You're welcome, chat. Let's jump over to Big Us. So it's just Big Us. Just for 5 minutes, we'll just answer a couple of questions. So get your questions in right now. There was a question around pressure sensitivity and stuff. Oh yeah, in terms of sensitivity and control of the pressure, is the Apple Pencil better or the Cintiq? Now, you mentioned that you don't use an iPad anyway, but maybe you could talk a little bit about using the Cintiq.
In terms of, I guess, sensitivity, I don't think they're worlds apart. I've read comments that the Apple Pencil has heaps more sensitivity, but I beg to differ. I think they're quite equal in terms of what results you get. because at the end of the day, if you don't know how to control a pencil on paper, you're not going to be able to control it on these. Like, they're quite reflective of, they're so natural that if you don't know how to draw it with a pencil and not be too harsh, then it's gonna show up on this however you look at it. But all I know is like the Wacom products. My kids have an iPad, but they don't even have a pencil. Like, I think the iPad to me was always a little bit of a novelty thing, so I never really got into it. But I know that it's getting better, and I guess that's up to users' discretion to decide. I kind of, not what's better, but how you can create better on any of those devices. But the pressure sensitivity on the Wacom is incredible. Like, I've got it set pretty firm, so it does take a lot to get a thick line, but that's so that I can get control of these little smaller lines for details and things like that.
Yeah, cool. There was a question before I think I missed, but just around your typography, some of the type that you showed early on at the beginning. Do you? The question was around: do you create your own like typography, or do you bring it in? From, where do you do the type from?
So I will show how I would incorporate it in this case, and it's definitely, I don't make fonts. I'm not. I don't create fonts. That's for sure. But I reference and I purchase fonts off sites, and I might use them as bases and then create off them. So similar to what I'm going to do here, like I'll go in and tweak it and kind of make it my own. But if it's if it's script or there's ways to kind of do it yourself. And again, there's a live stream that we did it would have been a year ago, and
a year ago.
We spoke about typography.
Yeah, how long ago was that? Was that in the round?
That was in the pod. So.
Oh man, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, but if you look it up, there's I did a demo of kind of how I would treat handwritten typography. So without going too much into it, it's just most of the time I'll use reference fonts, like reference photography and things like that, and that's purely out of time saving needs, I guess.
Yeah. There's definitely another question in here around freelancing. Yeah, what advice would you give to someone going into freelance kind of now? So I don't know if this person maybe the job opportunities in the full-time role is no longer available. Maybe they want to develop skills so they can freelance, a little bit like what we were talking about before. Do you have any kind of tips or advice or things you wish someone told you starting out?
I wish someone would have told me how like ruthless it can be. Like,
right.
I think you need to be prepared to be disappointed sometimes. Like, sad to say. Like, I think you need to prepare yourself for a lack of work sometimes. I think you need to develop like a thick skin to really own being a freelancer. You need to be able to focus on yourself, but still be conscious and I guess courteous to the community. So you can't be a freelancer and say, but I saw Art by Dale draws bikes like this. I'm just going to do exactly what he does, and I'm going to freelance, and that's going to be my go-to. Because I think you lose kind of sight of what you're actually doing art for if that's the way you work. I think freelance as a freelancer in a studio where you got to go in and work on other brands and things like that, that's a different kind of story. I think freelance as an artist or an illustrator, I think the biggest key is to kind of just be conscious of like your surroundings and the people around you, because there's a lot of negativity in it, I think, which people probably don't talk about, but there's a lot of positives. So I think a thick skin and just like a head full of dreams is all you need, really.
Thick skin and a head full of dreams. I really like that.
If you're a dreamer, you're always creating, right? So they're the best kind of creative. So yeah, I think just be prepared for anything.
There was a bit more of a practical question. Not sure if you can answer, but I can like as well. Is it possible for this artwork of Motorbike be taken into After Effects and animated specifically, like something like a cinematograph? You could certainly.
Should we ask Ben Marriott?
Yeah, get Ben Marriott in here. We've had some streamers come on who like definitely use textures and definitely ways to do that sort of thing. You might want to build it in like a bit of a different way, like importing your layers in Photoshop into After Effects and having an idea of how you're going to animate something at the very beginning when you start building is the way to do it. So like understanding what you want to happen, and then
if you know the project's final outcome, probably it would be you'd attack the build a bit different. Like everything would be a bit layered, I guess, with purpose. But I don't do any After Effects, unfortunately. Not my strong point. So I'm gonna have to agree with Flynn with what he said.
Oh wow, no one ever says that. That's great. What a special day for me.
It's a good day.
It's a good day. Like for example, I'll just quickly jump on that, like just in the sense that like if you wanted to say have the back wheel spinning indefinitely, very easy to do in After Effects. Really, you would probably just want to have the frame, so the wheel and everything was in front, and then you would put the wheel on a back layer, create everything otherwise as you normally would, but make sure they're separated as layers, and then import the layers in. And then you basically just need to grab that wheel and tell it to rotate infinitely and export it. And then suddenly you've got, you mentioned a cinematograph, that would be, pretty close to a cinematograph. Like it would, like basically just something that's infinitely happening in the background. And you can go into as much detail as you would want to on that if you wanted to add textures changing the background. You can do certain things in Photoshop itself. That's another stream for another day though. But yes, you can certainly do that. Is it Flynn Tracy's birthday? No, it is not.
He wishes.
I wish.
Okay.
Just no, I'm not that special. CC Lillian Darmono. Yes, exactly. If you wanted to see how someone creates illustrations fully with the intention of someone animating it, we actually did a stream last week. Check that out.
Cool.
Should we get back into it?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
All right, so
back over to your screen now.
All right, so the bike's pretty much where it's got to be, and also I had pre-prepared this guy to I just want him to be there because skulls and
skulls.
We don't need any more explanation, but I also like the fact that by doing more than just the black and adding some additional textures, objects and or text, it's more ownable as my style. I don't know if you saw the Harley piece that I did, that was very similar to this. Could get their brands in there and things like that, but it's just nice to have something else to look at as well. And quite honestly, skulls and blacks, they go hand in hand as far as I'm concerned. So he's just there. There's no real reason for him to be there, but I pre-drew him obviously, and again, it's got that like hard black shading. I just like doing things with a heavy black. I won't even worry about going to more detail. He looks rubbish, but it's fine. He's just doing his job. But then I might also want to add in some smoke trails or something, just to kind of, I don't know, just enhance it again that little bit more. But with this, I would probably, so I'm creating new layers and not naming them. That's purely because of time. So what I'll do, I'll move these layers to the top, and then I'll just black out. Oh no, I won't because it's not working. Turn all these back to normal. Alright, turn my smoothing on. I'm just going to black out under the smoke. The smoke's really rough again, but it's cool. You can see that smoke.
Nice. We should mention, chat, also, like Q&A is over, but if you do have any questions like about the artwork or anything else, we'll try to answer them as well if you want to throw them in chat. Do our best with the small amount of time we've gotten. It's gone really quick. My halfway point like timing was really far off. So we've got, I'll just let you know, we've got 23 minutes left. Dale.
Excellent. Excellent. All right.
I think I put the Q&A like a little bit too late. My math was bad. I have to work out the timer backwards. Like just for context, I have to work out the timer backwards. And because and everything, like we finished 5 minutes earlier than the half past, and then our soft cut is like 2 minutes before that, and that's where the timer should land. So you know what? I told my teacher in high school that I wasn't going to need this math, and you know what? She was right. I really did need it.
Joke's on you.
Joke's on me.
All right. I'm going to just quickly do this. Seeing as I may have thought there was a bit more time. Not blaming anyone at this point. But anyway, I'm just going to draw the smoke in. Smoke, draw it however you want. Whatever kind of looks like it's got a little bit of movement in it at least. I might not even finish the smoke because I kind of want to go into that about the font addition.
It's a good thing you did the skeleton.
Yeah, right.
Earlier.
You know, I was lazy. Alright, so anyway, so the smoke over the bike, I never really want to do it completely white like the top one, and that's simply because it takes away from kind of what's happening at the bottom there on the bike. But anything off the bike, I always do kind of full white, and then these lines might just be a little bit. I like this one.
I love it. Question from Johanna: any tips on drawing smoke?
Not really. I think there's all different kind of ways that I guess smoke can look. There's that like really traditional like cartoony looking stuff where it's like really bubbly, I guess, like this sort of thing, like that sort of thing. I like to do it a little bit more, and again, it's probably more tattoo kind of like, where it tapers a lot. It's kind of like got a little bit more movement in it, but I just kind of like, I'll just draw the shape of that and then just add some like bigger and thinner parts, and then that looks like smoke. Is anyone judging? I hope not, because that's how I draw it. But yeah, that's my tip, is just as long as it looks like there's movement, then I think you're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna get my grain shader. The grain shader.
Nice. Yep. As I said before, it just adds so much, like that texture.
Yeah, it's just like, doesn't need to be a lot, right? Like it's there hasn't been a lot of drawing here, but it looks quite full just with like textures and things like, the little addition of the smoke and stuff like that. So now it's starting to feel a bit more like its own artwork. So yeah, now I've got some smoke in there. There's some smoke. maybe I'd do like some smoke behind some. Maybe there would have been like some darker grey smoke to kind of give it a little bit more depth. But for this, we'll just leave it. So that's kind of the bike component. I'm just going to fix up these tiers because I don't want the smoke to. I keep using the wrong brush. I want that to still be over the top of that. Alright. Yeah, cool. And now I've got prefab numbers put in here. There's again that was a font, and I've just extruded it and did everything I wanted to in Illustrator, and I don't want it to look as sharp as that, so I just knock that back and I'll redraw it. Seems like I'm double handling, but it's the only way that it's going to feel like it's mine. So I want it to be a bit more suited to the piece, so if that means a little bit looser, and that is weird.
Yeah, and even though the line is like straight by the hand, like it's still like that slight little bit of imperfection that is very different to like a vector A to B, literally straight line and sharp corners and edges and stuff like that.
And to the point of like, can you do it in Illustrator? If I was going to do it in Illustrator and I wanted everything to be that sharp, then that's fine. But I think in Photoshop, it's always, around all my stuff in Photoshop's always got a little bit more of a hand-drawn edge.
Yeah, for sure. And you can very quickly like make those changes. I mean, you could always like just turn on round corners or something. But it's very geometric in Illustrator. And I'm just mentioning that because there's been a couple of questions around Illustrator versus Photoshop, and but just how quickly some of you may have noticed how quickly Dale changed the inside of the 4 to have those like rounder corners that matches up with that, you know, whereas before it's very, very sharp, like, and you can really see like your eye, even subconsciously, will very quickly notice like the inside of like that 4 was like incredibly sharp, like it's a very sharp point. Just really by rounding it out, like it's not natural. You know, Steve Jobs always said there's no such thing as a round corner in nature, which is why it seems very strange. Which I always kind of like even if you go to a very fine point of a needle point, it's actually not pointy. It's like I think not completely sharp, which is why those vectors can sometimes maybe throw us out a little bit, or maybe it takes away from something feeling a little bit more natural. So yeah, different apps for different things, different ways to use them. What are we doing here?
I'm just going to add some of that, the texture in again. Like I'm just trying to bring that in as much as I can. So I'm just going to do like a little bit of a fade in here.
But you made a selection then and then brought it in a little bit?
Yeah, so I did the select and then I contracted it by 10 pixels.
Can you show us how you did that? How did you do that?
Yeah, sure.
I've seen it before, but
okay, so I just use the wand, the magic wand.
Yep.
And then you go to select, modify, and you can contract.
Contract, cool.
And then you just pick however many pixels you want. But I just like it to be that little bit away from the edge, just to give it a little bit of breathing space. And then I'm just gonna add that orange because
that's just super cool. Like you did that very quickly, but that's really cool. I suppose you could do it the other way around to like create an outline as well.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So I'm just changing. It's probably not the correct Harley orange, but I just really like that they've got that orange. And now, so the 48 is Obviously, it's that bike for those wondering why it's 48. This bike is called a 48.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a Harley Davidson, so I've got the word Harley Davidson down here really light in someone else's font again.
Mm-hmm. There was actually a question around that. Where do you usually get your fonts from for references and stuff?
I think my favorite for kind of like being inspired for typography as well is letterhead fonts.
Mm.
And it's just got really beautiful, like ornate like fonts and things like that, but it's just like a really nice looking site as well. But there's that Lost Type co-op as well.
Mm-hmm.
I have no smoothing on. I was wondering why it's so jagged. So I'm using just the bones of this font. And I'm also trying to beat the clock, so...
Yeah. Do you want me to tell you how long's left?
I just looked at my...
Okay.
No, tell me.
It's about 13 minutes.
Nah, I can do this.
We can go right up to the line as well. Don't think there's anyone after us. We can go right up to the line.
Alright. So anyway, I'm just going to add these little things in here that aren't on the font just to add some of a point of difference. I mean, when you're using a font like this and you can barely see the writing, I don't know how specific people are going to be when they tell me it's not my font. It's there for looks. I'm adding in those little, like, black letter, gothic little thorns. But this would be how I would do the font anyway. If I had drawn it hand drawn, it follows the same kind of principles. Just take it into Photoshop or Illustrator and kind of make it feel as hand drawn as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always times when you need it to be super crisp and all that jazz, but for this one,
it's nice. You like cutting back in. Are you adding black or are you erasing?
Yeah, I'm adding black. Just for some detail that the font didn't have. Then I want to get do the same thing. So select that. Contract shows up again. This is cool. I really like this for adding texture because like it obviously makes it like pop a little bit more. Like when if you just have the texture, like it can look a bit flat, like it's sitting like it's carved into a wall or something. But with that extra outline, it really makes the grit pop. It's super cool. I'm going to try this one out myself. Yeah, I definitely think, look at my Mac. My Mac's not keeping up with me right now, but that's cool.
Oh, mate, you need a new one.
Funny that might just set this one up and this little sucker beside me.
Nice.
I'm just going to use it as like drop shadow more than.
Yeah, cool. Dale and I were chatting before the stream. He's just got a brand new Mac Mini that he's really keen to get going. It may have installed today, but it's kind of the last thing you want to do is like start pull apart your old computer and do this one just before a live stream. So he's very patiently waiting to unleash the new beast tonight. I think. Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's always nice getting a new computer.
And then I'm just gonna add that orange.
Sasha was asking in chat, what's the best size and resolution for something like this?
Something like this, if I was going to be, if obviously this isn't like a merch design, this would definitely be something that someone might pay for to get printed and put in their house or something like that. I would go 600 is always safe. Like I know the old 300 DPI when you're learning design and that, there was like 300 for print is, that's the absolute minimum, but I think 600 is probably my minimum. It's just safer that way.
Yeah. So there you go, 600. If you can.
Yeah, and if your computer will handle it as well. Mine's just being, it's like it knows that it's like I got a new girlfriend and this is going to be my ex-girlfriend.
Oh no.
And my computer's being jealous. It's just
slamming the door on the way out.
Yeah. There you go. And that's kind of like how I would put some type in there, and there's probably other ways I would have treated this. Maybe there would have been a bit of that orange that I've used in here, and I could go in and kind of add some orange, but I could add some like orange highlights as well. Like just to carry through that color. So just maybe like splashes of orange kind of like over the top of parts of the black. Maybe even on old mate here.
And what about like light source for those highlights and everything? Are you worrying too much about that with your colored highlights, or is it only for the white highlights that you did at the beginning that you really have to kind of think about it? Or is it both?
Yeah, no, at this point I'll just put them where I feel like it helps the artwork. Where the white ones, I think they need to be in certain places for it in order for it to make sense. You know what I mean? Yeah, like you could add some little color just to kind of bring in some of that like orange, so it doesn't look just like a big block down the bottom and top. But that's kind of it, and that's that's probably the roughest way to do it. But I think it's a nice way to effectively like customize someone's black, I guess, from a photo and kind of add things. Like you could put some like your own little emblem on here if you wanted to. I guess it's kind of like concept arting backwards.
Right.
You could put the little Harley logo on there if you want. Or whatever, you can put just write name, whatever. But yeah, I like the freedom of being able to control those three spaces, but like I said, still retain the black's look and feel. I haven't got rid of the photo, so if you were a client, you wanted to hang this in your garage, your man cave, and you wanted to still make sure people know it's your black, this is a nice way to like capture all of that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for the most part of it. Like, I guess the most important part is to be conscious of like the lighting levels and like how much light to bring into the piece. Think about kind of cool little way to bring in like that smoke, or because otherwise it is just a little bit of a where's the smoke? Where's my smoke? Otherwise, without it, it gets a little bit like it's a bit boring. It's a bit bland.
Yeah, adds a bit of motion in it, even though it's like sitting still.
Yeah, it's sitting still, but it kind of looks like now he's just turned it off. It's kind of cooling down, or it's a story. It gives the piece. Yeah, it gives it more attitude. It gives it a bit of context, like to just the black in general. But yeah, it's finding like, and I think it's important to remember like, don't create these artworks using other people's photography that one, you don't have permission to use it, and two, it's kind of like it's not yours to mess around with. I deal with a lot of photographers, and I ask for their permission before anything. And if it's going to be paid, it's paid. Otherwise, there's usually some sort of contra deal there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's important, like I said, about the freelance thing, be conscious and courteous to everybody in our community, because, you know, you step on the wrong toes, the line's going to bite, kind of thing. So
it's true.
Yeah, it's probably best to play it safe. But yeah, that's it, man. That's drawing. That's
awesome.
Drawing a bike from reference and creating a little bit of a keepsake.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing everything, and thanks, chat. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
Before we say our goodbyes, I'm just going to quickly bring up our schedule for the rest of the week. So had Bill, Hope, and Dale on today. It's Wednesday here in Sydney, so we're in the future. Tomorrow, which is Thursday, we have Bianca Beers, so more illustrations. So if you had fun with us today, you'll have fun with us tomorrow as well. That's at 11:30. Pretty similar time that we had our stream today with Dale. And then on Friday, we have a double whammy. Steve and Grace, all about mocking up your work, bit of the graphic design. He's over at Christopher Doyle & Co., fantastic designer. And we're kicking off our day with him. And then at 11 o'clock, we've got Adriana Picker as well. We're going to be doing some pattern illustration. So we've got a lot on this week, a lot of illustration, a lot of creative stuff happening. We hope you can join us all here, be .net, /live, my one job. But thank you, Dale, man. This has been awesome. Always have a lot of fun on the streams with you. It's amazing how much you can get through, and even when I cut you down a little bit there. I always love the textures, and I love your type, and I love how quickly it kind of comes together at the end like that.
Thank you very much,
super cool. And thank you, everybody else. So I'll leave you guys with the schedule if you want to take another look at that and what's coming up. And Dale, I will see you next time on Adobe Live. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. See you later.
Bye, everyone.